that takes us to where do you see things headed at this point? Where do you think they're going to go? Do you think they're going to be, SIG P365s on sale in California in a week and a half?
I think that if this doesn't get appealed, which I'm still, fingers crossed, I'm hoping it doesn't get appealed for selfish reasons. But obviously, if it goes to the Ninth Circuit and has a bigger sweeping impact on other states, that would be awesome for a lot of people. But if it doesn't, I think other people in other states are going to have a hard time getting some of the handguns that they want, because there's going to be a run on them. We saw this with magazines when we had that, 2-week period of time where we could buy magazines. If you lived in another state, your store was out of stock for 3 weeks because we bought all of them. I think we could be in a time where I have access to affordable, non 2 to 3 times MSRP modern handguns, which is a crazy concept.
For a Californian, right? Yeah,
for a Californian,
for a Virginian, that's run of the mill stuff. But for you guys, it's world changing as a gun owner. But actually, so what would you buy first if you could select from anything you wanted?
Oh man, so I think I would probably go with 2 things. Probably some sort of smaller subcompact handgun, like a 365, something like that in that realm. And then on the complete other end of the spectrum, something like a Staccato or like a really nice 2011, something that like would be good for competition shooting. It's kind of like hit both ends of the spectrum, because I got a lot of handguns right now, but I would like to have a better concealed carry gun that's smaller than a Glock 19. And I would like to have a more capable sporting handgun like a 2011. My bank account is not excited for it, but I am.
Those are the 2 areas where you've seen a ton of development in that time frame post 2013 that you guys have just completely missed out on. It's sort of ironic because I'm going to talk about this in our news update that comes after the segment, but I'm doing the training to get my DC concealed carry license, and so
nice.
Now I have to do think the opposite way, because I have to get a worse gun probably, because I'll have to comply with the 10-round magazine limit, and
you start thinking smaller and smaller gun.
It's like I want to get a 365X macro, and have I think that comes standard with 15 or 7. You can get 17
something like that,
magazines for it, and instead I'll have to, I don't know, maybe I'll just stick with the regular 365 or something. Something less ideal for carry. But so you might have the exact opposite. We might be going in the opposite directions here.
I'm like, ooh, I can get a small gun.
But so tell me, what's next for you, or what do you presumably this might get appealed to the Ninth Circuit, and you'd have to go through this probably for another several months at least before they're going to issue a ruling, if not longer, right? That's the more pessimistic view of where things could be headed.
I kind of always try to look at things in the pessimistic side as far as like timelines, because I just, it could be that bad, and if it's not, I'm pleasantly surprised. So if they appeal and it takes 8-9 months to get a decision on something, I'm prepared for that. I'm prepared for this to go all the way. I know the CRPA is prepared for this to go all the way to the Supreme Court if it needs to go that far. But, I'm just happy to be along for the ride. Honestly, I'll testify anytime they ask. I'll give statements anytime they ask, or anytime anyone asks, because I truly believe in this cause. And I think that's really what's cool about being a part of this. The CRPA and Michelle and Associates, the legal team, they truly believe in this. And it's, it could take some time, if things get appealed to the Ninth, and then they get appealed en banc to an 11-judge panel, and then get appealed to the Supreme Court. It could be several years down the road. And, when I signed up to be a plaintiff, I accepted the fact that I would not move from the state of California, bare minimum for 5 years, because I wanted to just be here for this. I knew what I was getting into, and maybe it's done in 2 weeks. Maybe in 2 weeks, it doesn't get appealed and it goes back to the district court to get some sort of, let's see, I had it written down here. Motion for summary judgment. Maybe they have us testify again. Probably won't have us testify again. But maybe it's done in 6 months and it's all just said and done, and California gets a win. Maybe it's not. So either way, I'm ready for it.
Yeah, I'm definitely of two minds about the direction this is headed. Because
Yeah,
on the one hand, California has not shown the desire to be more tactical in its approach to these cases. If anything, they've shown a desire to push the limits as far as you possibly could, because they're passing new gun restrictions that are extremely unlikely to hold up under Bruin. But at the same time, you do have that weird bit of silence we've had thus far. You can't read too much into it, but it does seem intriguing.
Yeah, and I have to give credit where it's due. The state definitely tried to bite off more than they could chew, which led to us getting the support of PORAC, the Police Officers Research Association of California, one of the biggest police special interest groups. The Nancy Skinner drafted a bill that's going through right now that could pass, that would basically make it so cops also can only buy on-roster handguns. And PORAC in the past has been sort of on our side in a few times. They've come out against certain things, but they specifically were like, when that kind of came out, in addition to the concealed carry ban bill that's being reintroduced, PORAC reached out to the CRPA.
Police officers.
Yeah. And even just thinking of the logistics of being a police officer on duty, how do you this guy is carrying a gun, and now I have to think about what's legal, what's not, because he's on the sidewalk. Okay, is that building over there a place that he can't be, and can he be on the sidewalk? It's going to add a level of distrust to people that want to lawfully carry and law enforcement even further. So they reached out to the CRPA and said, hey, we want to support you in your roster lawsuit. And they filed a brief, and some of those statements were actually included in the ruling, referencing how most law enforcement chooses to carry unsafe Gen 4 or Gen 5 Glocks, so like a SIG 320.
It would be really fascinating to see how that kind of commotion would go down if they tried to prevent police from having access, especially on duty, to these sorts of guns. That's generally why they have those carve-outs, so they don't have to deal with that sort of opposition. But
generally, police officers as individuals all kind of tend to disagree with these laws. But the police unions or police chiefs in some of the bigger liberal strongholds tend to support and file briefings in support of a lot of gun control. But the handgun roster has not been one of those where they've supported that law. Generally,
usually there's a divide between the sheriffs who are tend to be more rural law enforcement,
or elected officials,
and police chiefs, who tend to be more urban law enforcement. So usually you see that divide all over the place, but it's interesting not so much in this case, huh?
Yeah, now it's they're filing briefs for us or for our side of the argument. So it's good to see that, because it's a lot harder for the Democrat politicians to say, hey, we have the support of the people, and it's putting law enforcement in danger, when law enforcement, the largest law enforcement special interest group of the state, is saying, hey, this law sucks. It's hard to say they have your support.